What in the actual is this shit? Metroid Prime 4's desert music is locked behind a freaking paywall?
I own you.
What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the heroically humble Dr. Disaster, and Nintendo has been criticized an awful lot this past year because everyone has kinda noticed that there seems to be just about one thing that they really give a crap about.
Got any money?
The Switch 2 was criticized heavily for being marked up to $450, whereas the original Switch was a $300 console. The games on the platform are more expensive as well. Hell, even the controllers for the Switch 2 are quite a bit pricier than the last generation, and naturally, that led to a lot of people flooding Nintendo with a ton of complaints in the comment sections of pretty much any video they released, saying, drop the price.
The price is wrong, bitch.
Unfortunately though, people did not stick to their guns on this issue at all, and Nintendo ended up winning big time. The Switch 2 did not change their prices, and still, people flocked out and bought this thing in droves. At the end of September, Nintendo announced that they had sold over 10 million copies of the Switch 2, making it the fastest selling Nintendo console of all time in that time frame. Basically, it seems like Nintendo just won't get punished. They can do no wrong.
I am a god, you dull creature!
That is why I expect that this news that we're going to talk about today is not going to make a dent. Metroid Prime 4 is likely to sell a ton of copies, but this shit still has to be called out because gamers need to be aware of what Nintendo is up to. I do not want this to become some sort of precedent because it seems that a section of the music in the newest Metroid game during a part of the game, which is already being hailed as an empty and soulless experience, is being locked behind an extra $30 paywall.
Well, of all the cheap, lousy ways to save a buck.
That's pretty low, mister. If I had a rubber hose, I would beat you.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've had a lot of people tell me that they have been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel. Almost every day I hear from someone who says they didn't believe me when I talked about this phenomenon, but then they noticed that they themselves were unsubbed from the channel. It happened to them. I don't know why it happens, but I do hear this a lot, so look into it. I will be making this portion of my video skippable by making it into a chapter on the video timeline, but I do have to keep on saying this because the amount of people that tells me that it happens to them every day is unbelievable. Anyhow, let's take a look at what's going on with Nintendo here. I should preface all of this by saying that I'm really not trying to pick on this game at all. If you didn't know, historically I have actually been a really big Nintendo fan throughout my life. I have been there since the beginning. I own everything from a NES and a Game Boy through the Nintendo Switch and the 3DS. I own them now. I own them when they came out. I collect first-party Nintendo games, salvaging original packaging and manuals and everything. The thing that I have always appreciated about Nintendo throughout the years is that usually their design philosophy is geared entirely around making something fun and new. They like to be innovative with their gameplay. Sometimes this leads to stinkers like Skyward Sword, which I didn't care for since they relied too heavily on the motion sensing controllers, and they did make the game a little too much of a holding your hand simulator, but I do appreciate that gameplay appears to be their number one focus, and I love the IPs that Nintendo owns. So, with all of that said, I have still been very disappointed in a few of the directions that Nintendo has gone this past year or so. I don't like the lawsuit that they started up against PAYWALL, and I really dislike the raised prices on the Switch 2, though it seems like Nintendo and the game journalists did a pretty decent job of convincing people to still buy the console. A lot of people blame the tariffs for the prices, even though the prices were announced before those hit. Anyhow, this music paywall situation is pretty damn shitty if you ask me. So, for reference, here is a tweet from the X account Pirate Nation explaining what's going on. It says, Metroid Prime 4, Desert Music, locked behind Amiibo purchase. Nintendo's product description lists background music as a perk of owning the Samus Amiibo, along with a shield that blocks up to 99 damage and fully restores Samus's life once per day. And now, if you're anything like me, upon hearing this, you are absolutely rolling your eyes in disgust. To be fair, this is the Amiibo that they are asking you to buy in order to play the music. I'm also a big Amiibo fan, having purchased almost all of them at this point. I have a pretty sizable collection that I started on day one. Personally, I think this figure is absolutely beautiful, but forcing people to buy this figure in order to unlock the music at a certain part of the game is utterly reprehensible and speaks volumes about what the management of Nintendo are up to these days. Their mission seems to be trying to squeeze every single penny out of their customers that they can. They are no longer trying to be innovative with the gameplay alone. Their innovation has extended to finding extra ways to monetize every facet of their gaming system. A few months ago, we criticized them heavily, for example, for making their Switch 2 tutorial software cost $10. This action here, though, is much worse than that, especially when you consider that the desert that they're talking about, which Samus has to ride through, is massive and empty. Let's look at a clip of it really quick here. The guy that provided this clip on X wrote here, I genuinely think the desert would have been at least 3 times better if they had put some banging music behind it, but it just feels so vapid. And then this guy here responded to him, writing, I thought people wanted Metroid to be lonely and isolating. And that's a fair point, but then this fellow replied back, Metroid Prime has some total bangers. Having good music doesn't have to be at the expense of atmosphere, and that is 100% correct. He absolutely nailed it there. That clip that we watched would have gone pretty hard if there was some awesome music, but the lack of music adds to what is already being called a pretty bland and empty open world experience. As Smash JT highlighted on X, the image on the left shows the desert in Prime 4, which is just a pretty empty and soulless looking place, and on the right you can see Prince of Persia, a game from 2008, and it looks a hell of a lot better. Both of them have mountains in the distance, but Prince of Persia has a much more vibrant look to it for sure. To top it off, as we discussed yesterday, the reviews for Metroid Prime 4 make it the worst game in the mainline Metroid Prime series, at least in terms of how it was reviewed, and one of the most common complaints that we heard from reviewers, alongside all of the companions and hand-holding, is the fact that the desert that you have to traverse is just an empty empty void. People don't like experiencing games like that. Music would have gone at least a decent way toward fixing that problem, and Nintendo needs to be heavily criticized for removing that element from the game and hiding it behind this paywall. No matter how gorgeous I think this amiibo figure might be, people should not be forced to buy it in order to unlock basic aspects of a game. Nintendo really does deserve to have a message sent to them here. As a matter of principle, I think people should avoid buying Metroid Prime 4. That being said, I highly doubt that will happen. Nintendo fans just can't seem to help themselves no matter what. But I'm gonna leave it there. Nintendo putting music behind a paywall is a disgusting idea, made even worse considering that it's during a part of the game that people already criticized as being lifeless. What do you make of all this? Drop your thoughts and your contempt for this sort of practice into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.